Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast number 346. A shot or the shot? How you folks doing? Hey, a bunch of you folks have been reaching out, and my sincere apologies. I have not been able to get back there, buddy. I have been, for all intents and purposes, offline, and not that it was planned, but that's the way it is. But rest assured that all you folks have been so kind to reach out. I will get back to you. Um, it's just been crazy, crazy, crazy. And well, it's good stuff. But I appreciate your support. Appreciate you reaching out. Appreciate you listening to the Moose Podcast and telling your friends about it. It means a lot to me. So thank you. Also want to thank my good friend at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. Hey, those of you who have pre-ordered your Nikon Z8, hey, they're going to be filling those orders here about the 25th or so. It's going to be very exciting. I can tell you personally, I'm really loving that camera. It's very cool. I like the size. I like the fact that it has the Z9 power and performance in a smaller package. Everything is basically kind of the same as the Z9. The only you're missing is like GPS, but and a whole lot of weight and size. But Bedfords.com, that's the place for that and all your gear. Whether you want to rent it or buy it, new or used, need help, know exactly what you want. Bedfords.com, home of the Moose 5% discount. Thank you, Bedford, for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. Well, I'm going to get into this week's episode, and I feel like I kind of have to do it a little bit gingerly. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want anybody to be offended. But I do want you to think. I do want you to truly look at who you are as a photographer and what you're producing and think a little bit about what I have here. It comes from, hard to believe, some of my recent adventures, especially my week in Yellowstone, where I'll be honest with you, there are lots and lots and lots of photographers that I can look at and watch and observe and get all sorts of inspiration, including this particular episode. A shot or the shot. Now, there's a term I use for some a group of photographers that I see. I call it panic photography. And the panic photographer, um, classic is they run over to point A, and then they run to point B, then they run to point C, and then they run back to point A, then they run back to point C, then they go back to the car, and they change lenses, and then go back to point C, and then they go to point B and point C, and within 10 minutes, I bet they have 5,000 steps in and not one click. Then there is the photographer who, despite the fact they're miles away, the light absolutely just sucks. Because there's something there, they rip off a ton of film. Ton of clicks, excuse me. Not a ton of film, but a ton of clicks. And back in the days of film, when you only had 36 until you had to change rolls, I think that kind of, at least for me, made you be a little more judicious when you shot because you only had 36. And, the worst, Murphy's Law is when you were busy changing that film, that's when something would happen, but you're changing film. Well, what's this got to do with this week's topic? A photo or the photo? Well, and of course, I don't know for 100% fact because I didn't go look over their shoulder when they're uploading their images. I've gotten pretty good over the years at looking at a photographer, looking the way they're pointing the lens they're using, and looking at the subject and the light, pretty well pre-visualizing what it is they're actually capturing. And boy, it's just a shot, as in, I was here. It's not the shot, or you should be there. A shot. What's the difference between a shot and the shot? That's the biggest. I think that's the biggest challenge we face as photographers. A shot versus the shot. Now, in a nutshell, a shot just means just anything. I mean, there it is. There's a shot. Where the shot means, you know, it is. Or maybe you don't know. The shot is kind of sums up, that famous Ansel Adams quote. That paraphrase basically is, you know, Ansel asked how many photographs does it take to get a good one, and his retort was one. That's the shot. It's just the one. It's not 101 or 1,001. It's just one. And when you think about it this day and age, when it comes to our sharing our photographs, whatever medium you're going to pick, it's always going to be that one photograph. It has to kind of sum up whatever it is you are trying to tell or enlighten or share with someone. And that one is not a shot, it's the shot. Now, I was watching these photographers, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Now, it's kind of like, okay, just because you have it doesn't mean you should do it. Just because you have a long lens and you have a bunch of teleconverters doesn't mean that if you stack it all together and take a picture, you've got a photograph. You have a shot, but you don't have the shot. Because one of the first things that I could tell for a number of these shooters, they were shooting across the sage grass, and the sagebrush, I should say, in these fields. And at that time of day, the heat shimmer or the outgassing from those sagebrush, the blue gas, you're not going to get a sharp image to save your soul. Yeah, there is a grizzly bear with 2 3-year-old cubs there. And the female was spectacular. She was textbook gorgeous grizzly bear. Who wouldn't want that shot? But with heat shimmer, you ain't got a shot. You ain't got the shot for sure. Because you know that when you have heat shimmer, that means you've got sun, too much sun. And when you're a photographer and you have too much sun, what do you got? Blah. So not only was the AF system not working well, and that's how I knew that the particular person I was watching through my bins was having heat shimmer issues because they kept trying to get things focused. I watched them trying to get the camera to do it for them. They're trying to do it manually. They were busy locking down their tripod and their camera, thinking that camera movement was, no, it's plain old heat shimmer. And no matter what you do, a camera cannot focus, a lens cannot focus through heat shimmer. It's impossible. It's yep, not a time take a shot, let alone the shot. But there's a lot of people trying to make a shot. Now, no matter where you are in your photographic pursuits, there are times where, and hey, I'll admit it, when that Grizz was there, I pulled out the Z9 with the Z600F4 attached, activated the 1.4 teleconverter. I took 4 clicks and put the camera back in the bag. Why? It's an old thing of me with just breaking the jinx. Hadn't seen a Grizz yet. It was the first day. First Grizz wasn't a photograph. I end up deleting them later, but I always kind of take that shot to break the jinx. But I have no illusion other than knowing that I'm doing that. I'm not even making a shot. So, what is it in us that makes us want to take a shot? Well, in part is because we are collectors. We are collectors of memories and of moments. And all the great collections, right, are kind of opposite of Ansel's little retort. We collections, the more you have that collection, the better the collection. Except for photography, when the photographs suck, then that collection sucks. There's no way around it, right? That's the way it is. And when you feel the impulse of perhaps you need to take a lot, might be the first indicator that you have a shot. And I say that because I'm thinking, and I'll be honest, this might not be the answer, okay, but I was thinking that, somewhere in the back of our heads, we know that that is not the shot. So we take a lot of the shots, hoping that as we take a shot here and a shot there, and we keep adding that collection, that all of a sudden something's going to happen that perhaps we don't see. The camera's going to do something miraculous. All of a sudden, a shot will turn into the shot through osmosis. I think that may be partly why we just shoot a whole lot of the bad stuff. Where when we shoot the good stuff, the shot, we're always wanting more. It it seems to be fleeting. It came and it went. Have you ever noticed that in your photography? I was, after this kind of hit my head, I was thinking about, when the shot occurs and I see it and I take it, it's not like I can take a lot of them. It's just whatever it was, the light or the gesture, the color, the subject, whatever it was kind of fleeting. It wasn't going to, you know, last forever. You only got a couple shots, and that left you wanting. And well, I was sitting there, and I tell you, it was an experience. For the first time in my life, I witnessed and was part of an Old Faithful eruption at midnight. I had never done it before at night. Had always wanted to go at night and shoot Old Faithful and shoot heavenly bodies. And man, it did not disappoint. And I was sitting there just taking it all in. And it wasn't warm, wasn't cold. It was, cool. Coyotes were singing off the distance, and every so often, headlights would come from the um, check-in area at Old Faithful Lodge, and the lights for some of the vehicles would come right across and light the cone of Old Faithful and some of the steam before it actually erupted. And it's like reinforcing what I was thinking. Because when a little speck of light came on and hit that, the shot would appear. And when the light went away, it was a shot. Now, yeah, there was twinklings in the sky and some other things, but it was very fleeting, that a shot versus the shot. And so then I kept thinking the rest of the week as I was out there shooting. Had another instance with some Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep ewes. And there was some cool stuff. You'll see some shots on the website here coming up, because I did some before and after, you could say, through in the camera, to talk about a couple of different techniques and stuff. And I was like, you could say the before shot, I was like, yeah, okay. Then I look at the after shot, I said, oh, okay. There's a shot and there's the shot. And I was doing a bunch of those. And, I kept saying in my mind, okay, there's a shot. Oh, and there's the shot. And I was watching these ewes, and they were reacting to the public, and uh, the usual kind of things. I kept backing up because I was shooting with the Z600F4, and I was really kind of close and feeling the frame. I didn't want to. I kept moving back. They kept coming with me. It was like I was getting nowhere, because if they if they kept pace with me as I'm backing up, and I had the same physical space, I'm not going to get the frame I want. Except for there's one ewe. There was one ewe, the back of the group, and it was on the ridge line. And bless her heart, she went up and gave me that nice little kiss of mountain range, which was miles behind her. And I got that one little shot that I was really trying to do. I wanted that particular shot. I wanted that feeling of space and of grandeur and elevation where they live. And so I'm working, thinking about and knowing these are a bunch of A shot rather than the shot. And it was 90 minutes. It wasn't 5 or 10, it was 90 minutes. And it was around probably minute 75 or so. So 3/4 into this, I got the shot. Well, how do we know the difference between a shot and the shot? That's the one thing I knew I was going to do a podcast about this, and I was like, how can I give you some idea so you can start seeing for yourself the difference between you taking a shot versus the shot? Like I mentioned, the one when you take a whole lot, it's a shot, and when you take a couple and you can't get more, and you want them, that's probably a the shot. What's another indicator that that might be the case? Well, it comes to in the computer, and you might, and I'm just saying might, okay? You might find that those images, those files where you feel like you have to spend a lot of time, maybe inordinate amount of time, finishing one file to get it to your liking, it's very possible that's just a shot. Where you take a file, you bring it in, and perhaps do nothing, just save it, or maybe one or two little tweaks that take seconds, there's a real good possibility that is the shot. And what's going to really make it hard for every one of us, including myself, is that we're all going to be a little bit different in the way we see and we judge and we decide that is a shot or the shot. Now, I'm not saying to stop taking A shots. No, no. I mean, I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that you have to only take these shots. I'm saying that recognizing the difference will help you elevate your photography, help you be a better visual storyteller, help you come away more satisfied and rewarded for your efforts. And that's, you've got to keep that passion fed. So, something else to think about. Did you just take a shot or did you just take the shot? You folks have another great week. Spring is flying, summer's around the corner. Get out there and make every click your story.